The first game of the 2024 NFL season, we got an AFC Championship rematch, folks. We got the Baltimore Ravens going on the road to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 3-point favorite going into this matchup. And you know what's really interesting for Baltimore is the addition of Derrick Henry. Because last year, they were number one in the NFL in rushing yards per game. But when they lost to Kansas City in the AFC Championship, they only gave their running backs 5 total carries combined. With Derrick Henry now on the squad, how much does it change this Ravens offense in terms of how Steve Spagnuolo is going to have to game plan for it now? Because it's a difference between game planning for an offense when you only have to worry about Lamar in the backfield versus having a game plan for an offense that has Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry sharing the backfield. And although Derrick Henry is getting up there in age, he's a Hall of Fame caliber player. And the Hall of Fame level players regress at a slower rate than the average player at their position. So where you see most running backs start to decline at the age of 30, Derrick Henry's decline is going to happen a little bit slower than the majority of RBs out there due to how good he is. So he still has 2 elite seasons left in him before he starts to fall off a little bit and fall victim to Father Time. Last year, he still ran for over 1,000 yards, and he was the heart and soul of Tennessee's offense. Now, being in an offense where it's not all about just running Derrick Henry into the dirt, it's going to be a more balanced offense, even more balanced than what we saw out of Baltimore last year, because teams are going to have to pick their poison. You're either going to have to game plan to shut down the run, and then you just get sliced and diced through the air with Lamar, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, who's fully healthy. And then if you try to stop the pass, you're going to get killed on the ground. Rather, if it's via Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson breaking ankles and making big plays on the ground with his athleticism. So adding Derrick Henry adds an element of unexpectability to this Ravens offense because you really don't know what's coming. And with the size of Derrick Henry, he wears down defenses. I mean, the dude is like 245, 250 damn pounds at running back. Do you not know how tiring it gets to tackle a dude like Derrick Henry? This is like trying to tackle a damn monster truck every damn play if you're Kansas City. And with you having Derrick Henry, it's going to help soften up that Kansas City defensive line, which is something that I felt would have benefited Baltimore if they had Derrick Henry in last year's AFC Championship. Now, the Ravens, what concerns me about them going into this game is that they got 3 new starters on the offensive line. How are they going to look against one of the better defensive lines in the NFL? We know how much of a dog Chris Jones is. They got Karlaftis, who's really good. They got a lot of depth on the defensive line and a good amount of rotational guys who can get pressure on the quarterback. You're going to be starting a new right tackle as well. So, I mean, this offensive line, how it looks with a lot of new faces, is going to have a big impact on how good Baltimore's offense is going to be, because Baltimore has been one of the more dominant rushing teams in the league over the last half a decade because they've always had great offensive line play. But if the offensive line play isn't up to the standard that we normally see out of the Ravens, then they could have a hard time winning this game, because how's Derrick Henry going to be a big upgrade if the offensive line can't give him holes to run through in the run game? What if Lamar Jackson doesn't have a lot of time to sit back and throw the football from within the pocket? We know that he can run around and make plays, but Steve Spagnuolo is somebody who loves to send a lot of pressure. He blitzes a lot. And when you're going up against a blitz-heavy team, it kind of neutralizes Lamar's dual threat ability. Because then, you know, you're sending extra guys to keep Lamar Jackson inside the pocket. So if the offensive line can't communicate and they can't pick up those different kinds of looks that Steve Spagnuolo likes to throw at opposing offenses, then this could be a disastrous game for the Ravens offensively. Kansas City, you know, you got concerns on the offensive line, but you're not, you don't have a, the Ravens offensive line has 3 new starters. Kansas City has a new left tackle. It's pretty much going to be the rookie left tackle out of BYU. And, he was perceived to be a project when he was coming out. Now, he was in a position battle with a guy named William Morris. He ended up winning the starting job because he's listed as their starting left tackle right now. So, Kansas City, their offensive line, you got good guard play. You got a pretty decent right tackle in Jawaan Taylor. Your offensive line isn't as big as a question mark as what Baltimore's is because you're only replacing 1 starter from last year on that unit. Baltimore replaces 3. So it's going to be interesting to see, how Kansas City's offensive line looks because their offensive line wasn't that good last year, even when everybody was fully healthy. But this year, Jawaan Taylor should bounce back. He should improve this year. And I think that whoever they have at left tackle should be pretty decent because the Ravens pass rush, I got a lot of questions about it. This has been a team that has drafted a lot of pass rushers over the last 2-3 years, such as Adolphe Owe. You had the dude out of Michigan who got injured last year, David Ajabo. So the Ravens have yet to have any proven pass rushers, at least on the edge, that can get constant pressure on the quarterback. And now, with you not having any older veterans on this squad, which is what the Ravens normally do. They normally sign an older guy off the street who comes in and has good production. Like last year, you had Jadeveon Clowney, who had a great season. The year before that, you had Justin Houston, who was productive getting after the quarterback. They don't have a veteran pass rusher this year. It seems like they're banking on the development of their younger edge rushers, and they're going to have to be able to show up because we know that if you want to have any chance in hell of beating Kansas City at home, you got to harass Patrick Mahomes. Now, Kansas City offensively, I got concerns about your wide receiver position because we're not going to see Hollywood Brown. So that means that we pretty much are running it with Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy. Now, Xavier Worthy is not one of those wide receivers that if you're a Chiefs fan, you can say, oh yeah, like he's going to have a big game, because wide receivers that have the skill set of Xavier Worthy that tend to be big play threats aren't guys that consistently have big games week after week. Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Jackson, guys who have been notoriously known for being elite deep threats, some of the fastest wide receivers in the game under Andy Reid, they've been extremely volatile. They could have 150 yards, 2 touchdowns one week, and then the next week they have 2 catches for only 30 yards. With Xavier Worthy being so young into his career and this being his first game, I don't know how big of an impact he's going to have in this Chiefs offense this early into the year. And the Ravens have a lot of talent at corner. You got Marlon Humphrey. You got the dude out of Clemson that you drafted in the first round. I mean, this dude was strapping guys up in the preseason. Nate Wiggins. That's his name is now coming to me, Nate Wiggins. And you got one of the best safety groups in the NFL as well. You got Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton. So this is a really stout secondary that Kansas City is going to have to try to be efficient throwing the football against. And even when they played Baltimore in the AFC Championship, it's not like Patrick Mahomes was just carving up Baltimore's defense. Like outside of a few big plays, which one of those, that big throw that he made late in the fourth quarter to MVS to pretty much seal the win for the Chiefs, that was pretty much it. This Ravens defense was pretty much locking down Kansas City's offense. But what helps out Kansas City is that you're not going to be seeing the same defense in this game that you saw a few months ago in that conference title game, because the Ravens defensive coordinator, he's gone. He's now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So we don't know how good Baltimore's defense is going to be with this new defensive coordinator. We do know that they do have a lot of talent defensively, but they do have some concerns with their pass rush. And with their new play caller, is he going to be able to pick up from where Mike Macdonald left off? Because he has some big shoes to fill. People compare Mike Macdonald to being the defensive version of what Sean McVay is. So that's a lot of high praise. And if he is as good as what people are saying, comparing him to Sean McVay being the defensive mastermind of him, I mean, that's a pretty big loss, and it's going to be hard to replace somebody with that kind of accolades, with that kind of resume. So for Baltimore, I really feel like they got more to prove in this game than what Kansas City does. I'm not going to say it's a must-win game for them, but you definitely don't want to start your season out 0-1, considering how much of a dogfight the AFC North is going to be. I mean, the AFC North is always a dogfight, but Cleveland has the possibility of being able to win the Super Bowl this year if Deshaun Watson wakes up and remembers how to be a good quarterback again. You got a fully healthy Joe Burrow. And it's been a while since we've seen this division where all the starting quarterbacks have been healthy all year long. It seems like when Lamar Jackson gets hurt, Lamar Jackson, if he gets hurt, Joe Burrow stays healthy. Joe Burrow gets hurt, Lamar Jackson stays injured. So I really want to see how this division plays out, where you have two of the NFL's best quarterbacks pretty much, and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, who pretty much are rated 2 and 3, right behind Patrick Mahomes, how well they're going to handle just the toughness of the AFC this year, because this is going to be a grueling conference, a grueling division, and you definitely want to be able to be on the winning side of things, because yes, a loss this early doesn't derail your season, but it definitely could have a big factor in determining who ends up getting that first round bye come January. And we could come back to this week 1 game and say, damn, like, that's the difference between Baltimore not winning the 1 seed. That's the difference between Kansas City winning and not winning the 1 seed. So this game is really important when you think of the playoff implications down the line, because both of these teams possibly could be competing for the 1 seed this year in the AFC. So that's what makes this week 1 game so meaningful. So I'm going to take Kansas City to get the win. I love my dude Lamar. I still think they got a great chance to win it all, but early into this year, I do feel like the Ravens have a lot of questions as far as how good is their pass rush going to be this year? How good is that new look offensive line going to look with 3 new starters at the helm? And you got a new defensive coordinator, so we don't know just how big of a drop-off you're going to have defensively, because you're crazy if you think that Baltimore is going to be number 1 against the run, number 1 against the pass, top 5 and third down, red zone defense again, with how great of a DC Mike Macdonald is. Like, once again, they're saying this dude's supposed to be the second coming of Sean McVay, but just the defensive version of him. So it's kind of hard to replace a guy that's that good as a play caller. But let me know who you guys got winning this game down in the comment section down below.